Hey everybody, my name is Melanie Hester and I am here today with Matt Markins, and we are going to be talking about the thing that all of us as children's ministry leaders have done, and perhaps it causes a bit of fear and trepidation. It is choosing a new curriculum for our children's ministries. Perhaps even as those words came out of my mouth, you started feeling a sense of anxiety, or even like this guttural piece of like, oh yes, I know how that feels.
Always a big decision.
Always a huge decision, right, Matt? And so like when that decision is made, often we're asking some pretty critical questions. And one of those is it Bible-based? And I know that this feels like, well, duh, but often we really need to ask that question, because if it's not, we have to look at it and say it's a hard no, right? The second question might be like, what is the scope and sequence of this curriculum? Is it 12 months, 24, 36? Do they go from the beginning of the Bible to the end? Is it more topical? These are all things that you get to choose in what serves your children's ministry best.
And we might also typically think to ask questions like, talk about the media. Is it easy to implement? So these are like the basic questions, right, that you would normally ask when you're choosing a curriculum.
Absolutely. And then as foundational as is it Bible-based, also does it share the gospel, right? That's another question that we're asking is, will the kids in our ministries understand what the gospel is and what Jesus has done for them? And so maybe you're in that right now and you're like, oh my word, I'm in the middle of this. It's so overwhelming. Maybe you just finished that and you're like, praise God, I'm so glad that we are feeling good. Whatever, wherever you may be, I just wonder, Matt, we have leaders constantly asking this question, and at risk of sitting in that same cycle of questions, sometimes we have to stop and ask, what are we missing? And I know that you've been in the children's ministry world for the last 17 years. You've worked for a variety of different Christian publishing houses who have asked really particular questions and written curriculums. And so I kind of want to throw that over to you. Like, what are we missing? And are there questions we should be asking?
Sure. You just did a great job of kind of laying the foundation of all of the basic questions we would think to ask when evaluating what curriculum is going to be best for our church. But over the course of, like you just said, the last 17 years, working in 3 different organizations that design and publish curriculum, I've learned a few things along the way that I've thought in recent years. Like, I think if I was in the children's ministry or children's pastor seat, I would be asking these questions of these publishers or these organizations, right? So the first question is this: I would ask, if I were you evaluating and looking for the right curriculum for my church, I would be asking any organization or publisher, how do you define success? So I'm facing the publisher, I'm downloading samples. I'm going to ask you, hey, organization, how do you define success? Here's why I think that's important. Different publishers have different objectives. The organizations are governed differently. I would want to know, are you a for-profit organization? Are you a nonprofit organization? What's the makeup of your board? Like what's really motivating you as a ministry? And I think that's important to ask that question, because what you define as success as an organization tells me a lot about what you're putting into that curriculum. So if an organization's chief objectives is a sales number or a dollar unit, that tells me something. If an organization's what defines their success is a number of leaders equipped or a number of children reached and engaged, that tells me something very different. So the very first question I would ask if I was researching what curriculum is right for my church, I would ask that organization, how do you define success?
How does that boil down to the child? I mean, these leaders are looking for impact to the child. So when they ask for the organization, like, how do you define success? How does their answer impact the child in their church?
Any question can be a lead question to other questions. And so as you think about that child and how are we going to help lead that child to Christ, by asking that question, it's an open door to have dialogue and conversation that hopefully would help you to continue to understand who this organization is, what's motivating them, what they think about the child, what they think about the church and the Bible and the gospel.
I think that as we really process that this decision down to helping us know that the curriculum that we're choosing is directly impacting this child, right? Even fill in the name. This is the child that I'm choosing this curriculum for. Then you get to look through the lens of you're contacting this organization to advocate for the discipleship of that child, right? And that it changes the whole framework of how you're making this decision.
Yeah, just simply understanding what an organization's chief objective is and understanding what their chief metrics and goals are. Just getting a feel for that helps you understand a little bit about what's really driving the organization that's designing, building, marketing, and selling that curriculum. The second question I would ask is, have you ever conducted an impact study? And if you have, can I get access to the results of that study? Now that I've given you the second question, let me take a half step back and talk about why I would ask that. I mean, as a local practitioner myself, I've used children's ministry curriculums, and I've used some that I've thought, wow, this seems really fruitful and really valuable. There's others I've used and thought, I don't even understand, who designed this or why it was published, right? So you're always wondering about the impact. Is it working? How do I know that this is a well thought out curriculum that's been tested and evaluated, as compared to this is just a really slick marketing campaign and a well put together curriculum, but I just don't know if it's leading to any long-term fruit, right? So by asking the question, have you conducted an impact study, you will kind of help peel back the layer a little bit to understand, like, how serious is this ministry or this publisher? How serious are they about lifelong change and fruit and impact in the lives of children? As compared to, hey, we really want to sell you our curriculum, but we've not necessarily paused and taken time to evaluate if it's actually having an impact or not. So just as an example, Awana as an organization here is an example of ours. We can drop a link into the video or the show notes. So by doing an impact study, and this one right here, we hired a third-party organization not affiliated with us, and they evaluated our ministry. And they looked at several other key studies related to Barna and Baylor and other studies, and they benchmark the results of this ministry compared to the national averages, where you can see, like, is this making a difference or is it not making a difference? And so an impact study is really a great way to really understand the curriculum that you're evaluating or the organization you're evaluating. Are they really serious about what they're doing in terms of understanding the long-term fruit of their ministry and organization?
Yeah, because Matt, really what you're asking is, do they have evidence that what they're doing is working?
Yeah.
Right? Like you're asking the company to help you understand, you have all these churches using it. Is this helping kids know, love, and serve Jesus in a way that leads to lasting faith?
Yep.
That's what you're asking,
That's
right?
Yep.
And organizationally, we have a heart to help you, the leader, equip that child to know, love, and serve God. And so as they experience the love of God on a weekly basis, you can then track and see that this child is coming into a relationship with him in a way that actually has numbers to indicate how the past has shown these kids are following after Jesus because of the curriculum that the leaders chose to use in their church.
Correct. Again, we publish the organization Awana. We publish curriculum. We publish digital curriculum. We publish printed curriculum. We're very serious about this. And you should feel very comfortable approaching us saying, okay, I get that you have 70 some years of experience, but how do I know it works? So any children's ministry leader should feel comfortable approaching an organization or a publishing house and saying, hey, this looks really good, but have you taken time to do the rigor and the discipline and the research to study and evaluate the impact or the effectiveness of that curriculum? So the first question was, how do you as an organization measure success? The second question is, do you have an impact study? And if so, can I get access to that? The third question I would ask if I were in your shoes shopping for a children's ministry curriculum for my church, the third question is, what are the chief goals of your curriculum? Like, in other words, what is this particular curriculum designed to do? And I would look at that through two lenses. through the lens of the adults who are being equipped, whether that be a local volunteer in a classroom or a learning environment or a large group environment, or that's a parent, right? And I would also want to know, what are the goals for that child? In other words, if we participate, if my kids participate in this ministry or this curriculum for 3 years or 6 years, et cetera, what are the goals in the key stages along the way for those children? How are they being formed? What are you hoping that when my child graduates out of this ministry, what key experiences would they have gone through? And secondly, what are those objective outcomes that you hope that this curriculum helps shape? But again, I would ask that same type of question for the adults who are participating as leaders and facilitators and volunteers, but also the parents. How are you equipping and training those adults to reach and disciple children? I would really want to know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, discipleship is ageless, right? Like,
Yep.
we know that there is no age to discipleship. And so as you're looking, what I hear you saying, Matt, is that these leaders are looking for a curriculum that is going to lay out, here's what we hope that after, let's do 12 months again, 24 and 36 months, perhaps even all the way until they graduate into, whether it's your tween ministry or middle school, here's what we hope these kids walk away with knowing. Here's what we hope we've equipped parents with as they disciple their kids. And here's what we hope we've been able to do in the lives of the volunteers who are weekly serving our kids, because each one of those is a form of discipleship.
Yep. Yeah, curriculum is a great opportunity to train, your volunteers and your leaders and your adults. So if I'm an adult who's studying for a lesson or preparing for a lesson, like that curriculum week by week, every time I consume that, should be somehow leading me to be a disciple myself and to be a disciple maker. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. What else?
All right, so the fourth and final question I would ask. So the first one was, how do you as an organization measure success? The second one is ask the publisher or the organization, do you have an impact study? The third one was, what are the chief goals of this specific curriculum, again, with the adults and with the children? But the fourth question is, in light of that third question, the fourth question is, okay, well then, what is the design of your curriculum? What is the curriculum? How do you design it in such a way to achieve those objectives? So is the curriculum designed to help kids be introduced to Jesus Christ? Is the curriculum designed to help children grow as disciples? Is the curriculum designed to teach the Bible? Is the curriculum designed to articulate the Christology, the Christ from Genesis to Revelation? It's really getting down into, okay, how exactly is this built? Is the curriculum designed to teach maybe values and virtues, but maybe leaves out the gospel thread? So really drilling into, like, what exactly is the design of the curriculum, I think, is a super, super important question.
Yeah, the really interesting thing about the design piece is that this is where the uniqueness of what your church needs fits into this space, right? Because perhaps you have a certain number of kids and you have a certain amount of technology that you're able to use, or even the aptitude with which your volunteers can use the technology. This is where a lot of those questions can be answered. In addition to, is the way that this curriculum is presenting the Bible something that you enjoy and is visually appealing to the kids that you serve, right? This is where all of those kind of what might feel like nitty-gritty things fit in for you to ask about these various curriculums you're looking at.
If you're building it, if you're building a house, you want to understand like the layout of the rooms. Some houses are designed to where there's less open spaces. Well, then you have 20 people over for company, only to realize we can't really function the party in the way that we wanted to. It's because we built the house in a way that it wasn't going to facilitate that. You want a curriculum that's designed and structured and built in such a way that's going to help you achieve the objectives of your church. So if your objective is forming lasting faith in children, and you want to build as young disciples year over year over year, life phase to life phase, well then help me understand, how is the curriculum designed to do that, as an example. So I think the overall theme that I hope to share here with each of you is I think we have greater insight today to ask, I think, rich questions to Christian ministries and publishing houses on helping us really understand who are you, what's motivating you, show me the impact, and how exactly is this built to help me to form young disciples in the image of Jesus. So I hope this has been insightful. Hope it's been helpful.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, as you set that framework up, right, then let's take that back to the questions that we've always asked, which is it Bible-based, right?
Yes.
Those are all still things that we have
questions.
to ask.
Yeah.
And if we can go back to that house metaphor for a second, right? Like, imagine if we start out with the question of design. And that's the first question we ask. Like, that's not our foundation here. Like, asking how a curriculum is designed should never be the foundation in which you are building this structure of discipleship in your children's ministry. The first thing should be, what is the Bible?
Yeah.
Like, what are they teaching about the Bible? Are they sharing the gospel? And is what they're doing working, right?
Yep.
And then as you continue to build and you frame out the house and you add in the various questions of, does this technology fit our church? And then we can add in the design. And then we can talk about the media that they have to offer.
Yep.
It all fits in a way that not only complements our church and what we need, but it puts the child and their discipleship as the core outcome of what we're trying to do in our churches, is help kids know and love and follow after Jesus.
I don't know about you, Melanie, but I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear from those of you watching. Like, we're curious, what processes do you use? What do you think are the key questions?
And if you happen to want further information on the impact study, we did drop that link in the chat. Would you read that? Because what we would love is to connect with you in a way that helps you feel confident in what you're doing as you look to this task, this honor truly of choosing a curriculum that will help disciple the children in your church. When you think about choosing a curriculum, we want to take away that anxiety, and we want you to feel like you are fully at peace with what God has called you to do. So until next time, thanks for joining, and we love serving you.